I hope you're enjoying DevOps Enterprise Summit. My name is Dave Karow, and I'm a continuous delivery evangelist at Split Software. Today I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and then we're going to talk about layering data-informed practices on top of progressive delivery. Let's jump right in. Okay, so first question. Do you do this when your team releases to production? Do you sort of, each time you're going out to release a feature, is there sort of a like, oh, hope it goes okay? Question number 2. Can you remember a release night that went something like this? And I'll give you a second to take in the meme here. I've been through a few releases where we kind of knew partway through, oh no, this is not going as planned. This is very, very bad, right? Not a lot of fun. And then finally, how do you respond when someone asks, how successful was that release? You're kind of like, you might not say that to them, but you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know, haven't really had any incidents. Not sure, but hopefully it went okay. Well, I don't think it has to be that way. And what I've been up to for the last year or two is demystifying progressive delivery, especially the role of automated data attribution early on as you're rolling things out, right? And I got here because I've spent most of my career focused on developer tools, developer communities, and what I call sustainable software delivery practices, where the focus is delivering impact without burning out humans, right? Early on, I did my share of burning myself out, and then I became a product manager and kind of on from there. And so I believe that there are practices we can adapt which actually let us have greater impact without having to chew people up, right? And that's kind of what motivates me. So I'd like to present a layered approach to progressive delivery. How do we build our way up to these faster, safer, smarter releases? We'll spend a little bit of time just on some background. What is progressive delivery? What is it really? Can we define it in a kind of concise way? We'll look at a couple of role models. Who's already doing this and been doing it for quite a while, and what do they use it for? Then we'll lay the foundation. In order to use these practices, you first need to figure out how you're going to decouple deploy from release. How can I push software all the way to production, but have it be off effectively? And then the upper layers. These are the data-informed practices, the automated data-informed practices that are really what delivers the value to your team and to your business. So progressive delivery, what is it really? Let's talk just a second on the roots, because I think the roots of progressive delivery are important to understand. Is this just about gradually rolling out software, or is there something more going on here? So you may know Sam Guckenheimer. He retired recently from Microsoft. He was head of Azure DevOps. And he was having a conversation with James Governor, who goes by the handle Monkchips, on Twitter. And this is what Sam said to James. He said, well, when we're rolling out services, what we do is progressive experimentation, because what really matters is the blast radius. How many people will be affected when we roll out that service, and what can we learn from them? And I give this example because I think it's important to focus. Sam said progressive experimentation, and he was talking about learning early in the process. He wanted not just to limit the blast radius and go out slowly, but he actually wanted to learn as much as possible. And what happened is that James had this aha, and he thought, I'm connecting a lot of dots, and I've seen a number of practices that are about sort of how do I change the way I roll all the way out to production? And he decided to coin this term progressive delivery. And he described it as you see here, a new basket of skills and technologies concerned with modern software development, testing, and deployment. How do I roll in an intelligent, effective way where I have smaller lead times, happier teams, more impact on the business, right? So Carlos Sanchez, who's now a software cloud engineer at Adobe, wrote a blog post, and he described progressive delivery in a really clear, succinct way. I'm going to use this here, which is progressive delivery is the next step after continuous delivery, where new versions are deployed to a subset of users, and that's really important, a subset of users, and are evaluated in terms of correctness and performance. So I'm evaluating them as I go, and I'm not just evaluating like QA, does it work, does it fail? That might be what you consider correctness, but performance. Is it performant in terms of speed and system resources? Is it also performant in terms of business impact? Is it having the impact I expect? Before rolling them out to the totality of users. So I'm actually going to learn things before I expose everybody to it. And you roll it back if it doesn't match some key metrics. Now, your culture may determine what your criteria are for rolling back instead of just saying, okay, we learned something, let's try again. And we'll talk a little bit about how that gets done. So then let's just switch gears to talk about a couple of role models. Who's doing this already? And the term progressive delivery was coined in 2018, but the practice has been going on for well over a decade. And let's look at these two. First of all, Walmart Expo. So Walmart built their own platform for gradually rolling things out and learning as it's happening, because at the time when they built their solution, there wasn't really a market of solutions that could do this for you. And so they had to build it from scratch themselves. And you can learn more about how they kind of did the plumbing for that, right? Big company, bunch of engineers, you can fill in the blanks, right? But I think what's really interesting, if you look at these two reasons they use it, they call it test to learn and test to launch. Now, test to learn sounds a lot like A/B testing, right? Or experimentation. And you'd be right if that's what your assumption was. Test to launch is actually more about what I'm talking about here in terms of layering practices on top of progressive delivery. And that is that they wanted to be able to effectively run A/B tests on the fly during partial deliveries so that they could determine whether they're impacting the business before they roll something all the way out, right? The second example is LinkedIn experimentation. And the stuff on the left shows you kind of roughly how this flows. The users make requests from the central service. The central service has this library it can call that tells it what it should expose to the user, and the user gets what they're supposed to get, right? And you could decide, hey, students are going to get 50-50 and job seekers are going to get it 20-80, and everybody else is going to get none of it, right? What's interesting about this example, though, if you look on the right side of the screen, what does it say? It says, Lix failed on site speed. I can be fairly sure this was not an experiment on what's going to be faster. This was probably an experiment on what will make people sign up for job offers, etc., right? But this is an example of what we call a guardrail, which is that LinkedIn is always watching for certain things they've determined are always important, like errors and response time. And in this case, the alert is firing that, hey, this thing you're rolling out is slowing things down by 50%. And it's not good, right?